Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Becky.
So Becky, what are we doing today?
One of our recent videos, our Name of the Wind character ranking video, we had a comment from someone, username Cthaeh Young, who said, Bast is by far my favorite character. I'd love it if you guys did a video focusing on everything we know about Bast specifically. So, I thought that was a great idea.
We're a small enough channel that if you have a request for a video, we'll just do it, apparently. So basically, I've been researching basically I went through both the books and read through every interlude chapter just to see what kind of information we really have about Bast. Or rather, what information we don't have about Bast. Because Bast is quite a mystery. Enigma?
Yes, indeed.
Bast Facts. Let's go. What is the first Bast fact?
Alright, so the first solid fact that we have is that he's Kvothe's student / apprentice, and that he's the only person that Kvothe has ever actually taught. A fact adjacent to this fact is that he's been with Kvothe for 2 years. This we know from chapter 13 of the first book. Or, more specifically, I guess he's been being taught by Kvothe for 2 years. So I guess theoretically they could have met a little bit before that, but Kvothe has only been at the Waystone Inn for 1 year, as it states in chapter 1. So he must have been teaching Bast before they moved to this inn, which would mean, presumably, that the teaching started before any of the, the catastrophic event, which I'm referring to as, the move to the Waystone Inn.
The folly?
Yeah, the folly. Right. So, he must have been teaching him before the folly occurred. And so that means that Bast must have been around when that thing happened, because they would have had this relationship, the teacher-student relationship at that time. I guess the question is, why is he with Kvothe in the first place? Why is he with Kvothe at this inn in the first place? Why is Bast, of all people, the only person that knows the truth and is, still with him?
Because from what we know about Kvothe in his story, his narration, he doesn't really, get close to people. It seems I feel like his friends aren't even, that close to him. But clearly he's, very close to Bast. And I'm how did you become best friends with this, fairy dude?
Right. Yeah, so, in chapter 1, he literally says to Bast, it must be awful for you here, Bast. You must be numb with boredom. And Bast is just no, it's fine. There's so many girls to bang here. It's fine. But, it's so weird because it shows that, Bast is clearly, only staying in this town because Kvothe is here. And he's, not planning on leaving without Kvothe. Kvothe is basically sorry I'm making you live in this shitty town. And later he says, I won't blame you if you want to leave. You have better places to be than this. And Bast is no, I can't do that. Who else would teach me? And Kvothe says, yeah, who would teach? Who indeed? And I'm just what?
Does that bring us to our next question, which is, what is he learning?
Yeah, so,
what is he learning?
What is he...
what is he teaching him?
Right, what is... This implies that, Kvothe is the only person that can teach him whatever it is that he's teaching him. So why is Bast, incapable of finding another teacher, or, going to the university himself? Or, what is he... Is he teaching him magic? Bast already has magic. Is he teaching him naming?
That's what I was gonna say. I'm Bast is a fairy, so he already knows magic. He can already do magic, unless there's some specific type of magic that fairies don't know about. I was is he teaching him naming?
Right.
But, Felurian knows naming, right? Also, Kvothe, he can't even use magic right now.
Yeah.
So, what is he learning that he can't leave and he can't go find another teacher?
Kvothe is the one that's trying to forget everything he knows and trying to erase that part of his mind. So why does Bast think that he's still capable of teaching him these things that he's trying to forget?
That scene with the box, is that the only example we have of a lesson?
Face to face, yes, but he's also the thing that they're always talking about is getting him to read that book. Bast is always there's this book called Selim Tincture or something. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Excuse me?
Which apparently is a book about alchemy. That Kvothe, initially in the story, he gets it from Coticus's, like, tower or whatever, and he steals it from there, and he gives it to Devi, like, in the story as, like, payment or something.
It's the same book?
It's the same book! Yeah, so at some point he gets it later, and he's like, that's the book he gives to Bast, and he's like, here, study this. And, like, Bast is always like, he's like always avoiding reading it. He's always like, I was finally reading Selim Tincture, and you pulled me away from it, or whatever. And, like, in the Lightning Tree, which is the short story about Bast, he, like, sneaks out of the house or whatever, and Kvothe is like, oh, you forgot your book. And so he's just, like, carrying it around with him all day long, pretending he's gonna read it, and then, like, never actually reads it.
What? So what? Okay, now I want to know what's going on with this book. What is the content of this book? Is it actually important, or is he just trying to give him a task because he can't actually, like, teach him to do magic?
I don't know, it's just, like, what was the circumstance of him meeting Bast and deciding, I'm gonna teach this guy for, like, a whole year, and then, like...
Run away together after
and then the folly happens, and...
He's like, you're my only friend.
Right, like, he was there when it happened, I guess, and so it was just like, guess you're with me till the end, like, I can't get rid of you now, you know, like...
He's a witness.
Yeah, right, or an accomplice.
He needs to keep him.
Yeah. Which brings us to our next fact, which is that Bast knows what the thing that Kvothe shouldn't have done is. Or, like, the thing that involves the folly and the sword. Because in chapter 3, he, like, questions Kvothe about why he made this display for the sword, and they discuss Kvothe's feelings about what he did at that time. And Bast is the one that, like, had the sword this whole time.
Yeah, so was he just like, I don't want the sword anymore, here, you can have it. And then Bast was like, I don't want it. He just put it under his bed, like,
right.
I'll keep it away from you.
Bast witnessed what he did with it.
You're not allowed to use this sword anymore. I'm taking it.
I mean, I would assume it would be more like a joint decision, like Kvothe being like, well, that was some shit that we just did. Like, let me get rid of this. And Bast like, I'll hold on to this for you so you don't have to think about it. I don't know. So he knows whatever it is the bad thing was. So he was clearly there at the time of that. But he doesn't know, like, what happened to his parents, which I would assume means that he doesn't know most of the story that he's telling, because that's why he's listening to it in the first place. What does he actually know about Kvothe? Next fact, which I guess can be questionable, what Kvothe knows about Bast, which is that he's over 150 years old. His real name is Bastus. He's the son of some guy named Remmen, and he's the prince of Twilight and the Telwyth Mael. Okay, so we know that Twilight is a location in the fairy world.
The Vale of the Fairies.
Because that's where Kvothe goes. He's with Felurian, and she's like the Lady of Twilight or whatever. And so the Mael also seems to be some location as well, because it's mentioned in later contexts when they're talking about the Skinwalker guy that attacks them. They say that that thing was a creature from the Mael, after Bast said, it wasn't my kind. The Mael don't even share a border with us. And then Felurian also refers to the Mael as, like, a fairy court. But, like, if Bast is saying that the Mael are, like, a type of fairy, but they're not his kind of fairy, and their land isn't even near his land, then why is that part of his title? Like, why is it implying that he's the prince of the Telwyth Mael? Like, it's just...
Is the Telwyth Mael and the Mael different?
I don't know. I don't know why it would be. Like, I don't know why they would be separate factions.
Different locations.
Yeah, and there was also another one that was like the Tail something Mael that's like Felurian says. Like, if it's like a faction of like the Telwyth Mael and the whatever other Mael, like it's still the same country. Like, I don't know why he would say they're nowhere near our land.
So I googled, what does Mael mean? Chief or prince?
He's already the prince of it. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm like, is this just like his lies already unraveling? He's not really the prince of this place because it's not actually
what
his
if he's
kind.
not a prince at all? And
right.
He just lied.
Exactly.
He's like meets Kvothe and is like, you know, what do you do in the fairy world? He's like, oh, I'm the prince.
Right.
And Kvothe's like, oh, like the prince of what? Because, like, you know, I've been to fairy worlds and I know that there's locations. And I was like, Twilight. And he's like, okay. And he's like, and Telwyth Mael. Yeah, that's what I'm the prince of. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, right. Like, Kvothe doesn't know the truth.
We don't know what the Telwyth Mael is.
No.
That's the conclusion. We don't know. It's somewhere in fairy world, but he made it seem like it's not where he is. But he also said he was the prince of that.
The lies unraveling kind of leads us into, like, our first conspiracy corner, which is, as we mentioned in our second conspiracy theory video, which I'm not going to go into detail of it now, but if you want more details, go check that video out. This would be Kvothe is actually his father, and, like, Remmen is just, like, a nobody, or is Kvothe himself, or something.
Who the heck is Remmen?
Because, like, there's no mention of this Remmen dude, like, anywhere else in the story except this one line. But there is a visual of him from the Pairs playing card game that was created based on this series, which apparently Patrick Rothfuss approved of all the pictures of, but he doesn't have goat feet. Like, he's not a satyr. And, like...
What a way to choose to say that.
And, like, Felurian doesn't have goat feet. Like, she's not a satyr. So if they're, like, related, like, they're both, like, the Twilight...
Royalty?
Like, royalty, yeah. Like, she's not a satyr. Remmen's not a satyr. Like, why is he a satyr? Like, where did he get the goat feet from? Thinking of that, I don't know how fairy genetics work, but if, like, if satyrs just happen, or if it has to be, like...
Satyrs just happen!
Like, they're just random? But if it's more like you have to be like one of the parents,
it's a random mutation. Yeah. It can just happen.
But if it has to be a parent, it has to be a satyr. Like, it doesn't make any sense that Kvothe and Felurian would be his parents.
Wait, can we bring up when they had not when they had the baby, when they were holding the baby, and Kvothe was trying to, like, imply that Bast was the father of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Bast wasn't like, no, he don't have gold feet.
Right.
He was like, no, he's blonde.
Right.
So...
Yeah, exactly. Like...
How...
So he wasn't concerned that, oh, I might have a child that has goat feet, I better not be banging everybody in town, because he clearly is. And he may have children all around this town.
So it's like, can fairies... They must be able to reproduce together.
Yes.
Because why would Kvothe think that this is his child if that wasn't possible? Yes. Would that child be, like, a fairy? Or are they just a human?
I don't know. Are there half-breeds? I mean, because I would assume that fairies are out here, you know, having children with humans a lot. Like, I feel like that would be a thing that would happen frequently.
Fairies are just horny, so they're banging everyone.
Yeah, so I would assume
the two fairies that we have seen.
I mean, basically the conclusion is... Remmen may or may not be his father, because he's not goat. Felurian may or may not be his mother, because he's not goat. Let's just move away from this topic. We don't know what's going on here. Another fact that we have, his fears. So, in chapter 48 of the first book, there's this whole chapter about Bast's fears, and how he, like, developed fears because of certain things. So one of these fears, which is completely pointless and unrelated, is heights. But the actual important one is this fear of silence, or, quote, the deep, weary silence that gathered around his master. And it says, a year ago he had been fearless, but now he feared silence. And so if they've been together for 2 years, but they've only been at this inn for 1 year, then I would assume that, like, the year ago would be, like, before the folly event, and before they moved to the inn, he was, you know, fine, he was chilling, he didn't have any fears. Then, like, these most recent few months, he's been waiting for months for someone to come help him. That's when the fear started. So because he says, like, oh, at first when we were living here, like, you know, Kvothe was fine, he was able to take the mask of the innkeeper off, and he was acting like his normal self. But as the months went on, he couldn't remove himself from that innkeeper persona, and he's just becoming more and more like this new person. So that's the fear, this silent image of Kvothe, like, forgetting who he really is. Or the silence that appears around Kvothe when he's, like, thinking about these certain dark things from his past, because in this chapter, that darkness, the silence, was triggered by either talking about Ambrose, because the chapter before this was Ambrose was starting to become, like, a problem, but, like, at the time, I didn't think it was a real fear. I was so wrong. Or, it's more likely, in my opinion, that it's triggered by Denna, because, like, that chapter ends, and then it starts this new chapter of, like, the silence is here, and Bast is, like, sitting there freaking out about the silence, and then Kvothe is like, sorry, I just don't know how to, like, start this next part, which is the Denna part. I don't know, that just contributes to my, like, Denna is sketch theory. So, I don't know, basically, Bast is, like, so afraid of this silence taking over Kvothe, which brings up the question of, why does he care so deeply? Like, why is he so invested in Kvothe? Because there's so many moments, like, there's this part in chapter 5 of the first book where Kvothe is, like, asleep because he was hurt by the Scrael things, and he's, like, sleeping, and Bast just comes in his room and sings this random lullaby to him, which I'm gonna read for you right now because it's just so wild. How odd to watch a mortal kindle, then to dwindle day by day, knowing their bright souls are tinder, and the wind will have its way. Would I could my own fire lend, what does your flickering portend? Which, like, to me, is interpreted as, like, it's so sad that mortals die. Like, I wish I could give you my life energy so I don't have to watch you die day by day. It's just like, what the...
Did he actually sing that, or did he just
sang it
say
out loud? It says, then he began to sing softly, the tune lilting and strange, almost a lullaby. After he reached out and brushed the unruly red hair back from his face, like a mother would with a sleeping child. What is this scene? Like... oh my god.
Are they dating?
I mean... so then, we've got this whole conversation...
Maybe Bast is the father.
This whole conversation that he has with Chronicler in chapter 92 of the first book, about how, like, he brought Chronicler there specifically to make Kvothe remember who he is and change how he's acting. And Bast literally threatens to murder Chronicler, like, intensely if he doesn't do what he says and help him. And it's, like, the same kind of thing with, like, the end of Wise Man's Fear, when it's revealed that he sent those soldiers to go and attack Kvothe and, like, to try to make him, you know, fight back or whatever. And then he goes and murders them afterwards because they hurt him too much. And, like, it's just, like, this thing he says when Chronicler's like, what, like, why are you doing this? Like, what is your goal here? Like, what do you want? And he just says, I just want my Reshi back. I'm just like, he's only been your Reshi for 2 years. Like, why are you so attached? Like, honestly, it's like, this is so, like, one-sided love by Bast, if anything. Like, I swear, he literally is. Like, in the second book, chapter 136, when Bast casts this magic spell to replace Kvothe's bloody teeth with his teeth, or, like, he heals Kvothe's bloody tooth by putting it in his own mouth instead, and Kvothe's reaction is like, Bast, you shouldn't. Like, it's more than you should do. Like, with eyes, like, he was like, his eyes widened. He's like, what the fuck, bro? Like, what are you doing?
Hold on. What? It's more than you should do?
Yeah, that's what he says.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Like, don't...
like, it's taking too much magic?
Or,
it's
like...
he's using his own, like, life to, like, heal?
I mean, you shouldn't be, like, putting this much effort in to help me, or, like, you shouldn't be putting yourself in pain just for me because I'm a loser and I don't deserve it, you know, kind of thing. But Bast's reaction to this is, quote, he reached out and laid a gentle hand on the side of his master's face and says, you're an idiot, Reshi.
Like, can we, like, insert those memes that I made? I think Bast is in love with him.
I think he straight up is. Like, I'm literally like, what other explanation is it for him to, like, be so deeply invested?
I mean, I was really like, are they in a relationship? Like, do you think that they're, like, just Deoch and what's that guy's name? Stanchion? Deoch and Stanchion 2.0? Like, it's foreshadowing. Red hair bar, is that a bar? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, establishment.
Place, establishment owner has red hair, and then his boyfriend has black hair, and apparently flirting with all these women, / dating all these women. I don't know. He was dating Denna, wasn't he? Doing something with Denna.
Yeah.
Or clearly he's in a relationship with this other dude, so like going around with all these women,
right.
but like is in a relationship with the guy that he owns the bar with. Denna blinked at him. He and Stanchion own the alien together, she said. Didn't you know that? They own the place, Sim said. They're not, together. Denna laughed. Of course they are. But Deoch is up to his neck in women, Simon protested. He can't. Denna looked at him as if he were simple. Then to Will and myself, the two of you knew, didn't you? Anyway, is that not their exact situation?
I mean, it kind of literally is.
Maybe Bast is just in love with him, but then Kvothe is just too emo and he doesn't realize it.
There's this one part in the lightning tree. So, like, earlier in the story, Bast, like, finds out where this one girl, like, takes her bath. But then he comes in at the end, and Kvothe is like, so what did you learn today, Bast? And he's like, I learned where she takes her bath. And he's like, I could take you there next time, and, like, we could go together, and I could show you. He's like, oh, Kvothe is like, I don't know who that is. Like, I don't know what girl that is from town. And Bast's like,
Bast is trying to get him to have a threesome with him?
And Kvothe is like, no, that's okay. Like, I'll just look at her when she has her clothes on. Like, it's fine.
Bast is trying to get him to come be in a threesome with him. Like, that's what you just said. That's what you just described. If Bast is not in love with him in some way, maybe they're in a relationship, maybe they're not, or maybe Bast just likes him one-sidedly. If that is not true at all, and Bast is just 100% straight, what's going on?
Right, exactly. Like, if that's not the case, then
if that's
what
not
is the
true,
deal?
then what is going on?
Yeah.
What is it?
Like, why else would he be so involved? Unless he's, related. I guess that's the other one, is, like, father or son.
Those are the only relationships that you can have. You're either fucking or you're related. So they're either banging or they're related. I mean, I'm not saying, like, two guys can't have a close friendship.
It's just, like, it seems like so much deeper.
Intense.
Yeah, it's so
intense.
Yeah, like, why is he so violent and intense about it at everyone else?
Yeah,
like, this is the only thing I want in life, is for him to be happy. Like,
right,
what?
yeah.
Alright, moving on. Another fact that we have is that Bast has met Denna, which we find out in chapter 57. Bast says, I've seen her too, once. So, like, this really, like, shook me when I was rereading this. I don't know, it's just, like, the question is, like, when would Bast and Denna have been together at the same time? Like, it could either be during the 1 year before the folly happened, like, Bast and Kvothe were just chilling somewhere, and Denna just shows up randomly, because she always just shows up randomly, and they just met, and then she went away again. And that's why Kvothe, like, didn't really remember that he had met her, because when Bast says that, Kvothe's like, oh yeah, you did meet her, right, okay. So, like, if it was such a
Maybe
random
he met her
time,
when they were killing her.
Right, or number two is when the folly was happening, and Denna's involved with it, because surely she's involved with it. Like, that would be when he saw her or met her. But at the same time, like...
Yeah, because he doesn't say I've met her. He said I've seen her.
Well, yeah.
Does that mean they didn't actually interact? He just, like, saw her and was like, oh, there she is?
I don't know. I guess it could. That could be. If that was the case, why would Kvothe not remember that? Like, if he knew that she was involved in the folly and Bast was there when that was happening, why would Kvothe be like, oh yeah, you met her? Like, not like, oh yeah, right, when I was murdering her, like... or whatever, like when she was betraying us, or whatever. I don't know. I mean, the question is, what is Denna's involvement with the folly, I guess. This part where Bast is like, she's not even that pretty. It's like even funnier if you have the previous like inclination of Bast being into Kvothe and being jealous of how Kvothe is obsessed with Denna. Like him being like, she's not that pretty. It's like kind of contributes to it, honestly. Another fact that we have is that Bast like entertains / makes deals with children just like every day. Like he's basically like just has this business set up where he exchanges information with children for secrets and dirt on the townspeople, which is basically what the whole lightning tree story is about. And it's just so weird. Like, why? Like, why? I don't know how old Bast is supposed to be, but like these kids
like
are
as a human.
Yeah, like how old he's posing as, like 18, 16. I don't know, because like the kids are like 10, 12 maybe. And, like, they come to him as, like, the sage of the town for, like, I need a lie, I need a secret, like, I have this secret, can you tell me, like, this, like, I'm gonna trade you this information for, like, information about this, like, can I ask you questions? And it's just, like, what is this, like, business that he's got going here? It's so weird.
How did he start that? Did he just start interacting with children? Like,
I don't know, like, he just went up on that hill by the tree and just sat there, and the kids were like, what's he doing up there? Maybe we should go ask. So, a random side note, when I was rereading The Lightning Tree, I was just, like, skimming it the other day, and this quote where it says, talking about Bast, it says, he had never been in conflict with his own desire before he came here. It was so simply singular before. Want and have, see and take, run and chase, thirst and slake. It wasn't like that now. Now his desires grew complicated. They constantly conflicted with each other. He felt endlessly turned against himself. Nothing was simple anymore. He was pulled so many ways.
this is more evidence of him being into Kvothe. Like, my life. What? First of all, okay, what is before he came here? Does that mean the human world, or does that mean
no, the town?
The town.
The context of this quote is he's talking to this kid, and the kid is like asking him about fairies. And so Bast is like, all right, should I tell him the truth? Like, I could tell him the truth. Like, I don't want to lie to him. I could always, like, kill him later, like, if I tell him and he, like, does something about it. But then he's like, I don't want to kill him, though. Like, he's kind of a good kid. In the past,
he's becoming a good person.
Yeah, like, in the
somehow.
past, he would have just killed him. But now he's, like, conflicted that, like...
Is Kvothe teaching him how to be a human? This quote that you've put, basically, it's implying that, like, he's becoming a good person.
I don't know, like, seeing Kvothe in this changed form has made him realize that, like, that's more important in life.
Yeah.
But I mean, clearly, like, he still goes out and murders people after this. Some additional random facts that I just wanted to include are he hates beets, he likes olives, and he's terrified of the Cthaeh.
That's such a useless information.
I know, but it's there. Those are the facts.
It's like, you know, like, you get the, like, those profiles for, like, anime characters, and it tells you what their favorite food is.
So then our last, like, burning question, as it were, is what is the deal with his heart blanket? Like, what is it?
This is
what is it?
What is it?
They're in a relationship category.
I mean, did Kvothe give him this blanket? Did he
That's
make it?
Okay, because he sat in front of his fire being emo, and he is emo because he is trying to get Kvothe to fight, and he sent them people, and they just beat him up, and he was totally unsuccessful. So he is emo, that Kvothe is emo, and he is wrapped in this heart blanket. It's a blanket that just has a heart on the back of it, like, sewn on. The blanket looked like a rag, but it just had the heart on it. So I don't know if it's, like, a really old blanket or, like, what, but he's, like, holding this blanket, and Chronicler comes in, and it says something like, he trusts me, and, like, holds the blanket, like, pulls the... Can you find out what it says? It's, like, something like, they're talking about Kvothe, and he's like, he trusts me, and, like, clutches the blanket. Which, like, implies to me that the blanket is somehow related to Kvothe. Like, I don't know if Kvothe gave him the blanket, or if it was Kvothe's blanket, and now Bast has it, like... But he's, like, snuggled up in this blanket being sad about how sad Kvothe is. I'm like, why does it have a heart on it? What is that?
A rag blanket. It was a chaos of ill-matching fabric and faded color, except for a bright red heart sewn squarely in the center.
Oh, so it is made of rags.
He knows the hidden turnings of the world, Bast said, and what he doesn't understand he's quick to grasp. Bast's fingers flicked idly at the edges of the blanket, and he trusts me. I don't know. Where did this blanket come from? Why is it his comfort blanket?
Did Bast make it himself?
Maybe.
Did he make it out of Kvothe's old clothes?
Or did Kvothe make it for him when they were traveling together?
Why would he make him a blanket?
I don't know if he's cold.
Why?
If they're like outside traveling and it's cold, it is a mystery.
Fuck.
Yeah, literally, why?
Do you think that, like, maybe someone else gave it to Bast that cares for him? Because, like, maybe, I don't know, his mother gave it to him or something. Like, I don't know who his mother is.
Like, it could be a family item that his parents gave him, and it just comforts him in times of sorrow.
It's just so weird. It's such a weird thing. It's a weird detail.
It is. So, those are all the facts that I have.
There's really more questions than answers.
Yeah,
Let's be honest.
There really is.
What's the conclusion?
We don't know anything about Bast, truly.
Those are the facts. There's more theories than facts. There's more questions than facts. If you have any thoughts about Bast and what he's doing, leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
If you have any additional theories, let us know. We love a good conspiracy.
We do. If you're interested in conspiracies, you should check out our 2 Name of the Wind conspiracy theory videos.
If you want to request us cover another topic, just leave a comment down below. We'll just do it, apparently. So
yeah, true.
If there's a video that you want to see, just comment down below and we'll do it. See you next time.
See ya.